Chapter 19, Declaring War. Searchlight spent the next couple of orns tracking down the students on the list. We had set up a meeting time and place for a few orns in the future, and I'd located a perpetually empty classroom for us to meet in. Searchlight seemed to have moderate success getting other students to promise to come, and though Ratchet still didn't approve, even he promised to show up. Unfortunately, the word got around a little more than I felt comfortable with. I heard several students who Searchlight hadn't talked to thinking about it in one of my classes. The real question was whether the bullies knew. If they did, then we were in trouble. So, the orn before the meeting, I tried to follow the bullies as much as I could, listening to their thoughts. If they knew, then we could switch rooms or change the time or something. But they seemed oblivious. I didn't realize what a miracle that fact was until the meeting when 30 students showed up. We'd been expecting 12 at the most. Even Searchlight, who'd been hoping for 20, was surprised and almost intimidated. Almost all the chairs were taken. If we had any more students come, we were going to need a bigger classroom. Searchlight sat at the front and waited an extra few breams before getting up to talk. The room was filled with every kind of chatter. I hadn't been there long enough for it to start really bothering me, but I hope Searchlight could keep this short. Hey, everyone, he said. They kept talking. Okay, Searchlight said louder. So you all want to talk about this with me? Settle down, okay. They quieted after a few Ostroskins. They'd heard about this from their friends, or overheard it in the hallways. A few had been passing by the classroom and wanted to know what was going on in here. Now they were all quiet on the outside, and staring at Searchlight. He looked pretty relaxed and confident. I was pretty sure I was the only one who knew he was a little nervous. Well, he said. I guess I should have picked a bigger room. There was scattered quiet amusement, but no one laughed. I admit I didn't expect this much of a turnout. But that just means Verdict and his gang really are a problem. Really. How many of you have they ever bullied? Searchlight raised his hand. Most of the mecha in the audience did so as well. I raised my hand. How many of you have they beat up or put in danger? Some of the hands went down, including Breeze's, but a good number stayed up. Okay, Searchlight said. How many of you would like to see them stopped? Every hand in the room went up. Guess that's why you're here, isn't it? Searchlight asked. Stupid question. Here, how about a harder one? How many of you have ever stood up to them? Hands went down slowly, then cascaded and trickled off again as the last few gave up pretending and only Searchlight held his hand high. I have, he said quietly. And let me tell you I understand where you're all coming from. It's Pit standing up to them. And it's Pit standing up to them alone. And I wouldn't blame any of you for not wanting to. In fact, I wouldn't blame any of you if you went to them right after this meeting and told them everything I'm going to say. Two had been considering it. Now they changed their minds, feeling guilty. And I wouldn't blame any of you for backing out. They're not going to go down easy, and they're not going to go down without a fight. The room was dead silent now. Everyone was listening. But there are 30 of us, Searchlight said. If I keep standing up to them on my own, they're just going to keep winning, but if all of you stood with me. A hand went up, rather hesitantly. Yeah. Searchlight said. But they're after you, aren't they? Everyone knows it. Isn't it kind of your fight? Searchlight thought about that, then nodded. You're right about that. It's me they're after more than anyone else. And it is my fight. But it's my fight because I make it my fight. Look, it's not just about me, though. If I was the only one they ever hurt, then you all wouldn't be here, would you? There was a murmur of agreement. So, Searchlight suddenly looked less sure of himself. Well, if none of you want to join me, then it can just keep being my fight. But nothing's going to change about the situation unless we make it our fight. There was quiet, then a femme called out. What exactly do you want us to do? Searchlight smiled a little. Well, I don't want you to go get yourselves beat up. At least I hope I'm not asking that. Right now, the plan is to get as many mecha as we can. If we've got enough of a group, I think we can just go up to them and talk to them. We'll let them know we aren't going to put up with their scrap any longer. If they don't listen, then we'll get more serious. I've got some ideas, but they're not really well developed yet. The room fell to quiet again. So, Searchlight said. I guess that's what I have to say. Now it's up to you to decide if you're with me or not. The more of us we have, the more likely we are to make an impression on them. Since we had this much of a turnout this orn, I think it's safe to say we can find enough mecha who are willing to help us with this. I don't want to make you decide right now. I know this is kind of crazy. But I'd kind of like to see how you feel about this. So, by a show of hands, who's with me? More than half of the room raised their hands, and most of the others were seriously considering it. Great, Searchlight said. I never expected this many, but now I'm thinking, with the pit, let's get the whole school involved. It's not like we're breaking any rules. There was a bit of a cheer. Searchlight smiled. For now, let's close the meeting. But I want to meet again. Next door in a different room, though, cause it's kind of crowded in here. Soundwave, is there a bigger room we could use? All of them looked at me. I nodded. Alpha 105. I even managed to avoid stuttering. Thanks, Mech, Searchlight though. Sorry, I didn't think about you having to talk. You did great, though. Thanks. Okay, so I'm open to questions and ideas at this point. Or you can leave if you want. Let anyone know who you think might want to be part of this. We'll meet next door at the same time and work out a serious plan. After a few moments, mecha started trickling out. A lot of them went to go up and talk to Searchlight first. We waited until everyone else had left, except for Breeze, who seemed to have decided she was part of our group now. Then Searchlight came over and sat down at the nearest desk. Wow, he said. I really messed that up, didn't I? I shrugged. He hadn't, not really. Does he really think he did? Breeze wondered. Wow. That was really good, she said. Seriously. You think any of them will come back? Searchlight wondered. I nodded. I still think this is a terrible idea, Ratchet said. You're going to get us all in trouble. This is secondary school, not some sort of, can you imagine just for a moment what would happen if the teachers found out about this? Oh, come on, tell me what rule we're breaking, Searchlight said. It'll be fine. I'm just surprised so many mecha came. Let's go get some energon. Coming, Breeze. She nodded. Searchlight seemed perfectly willing to accept her into the circle. Ratchet wasn't so pleased about that, and I didn't know how I felt about it either. She was just some random femme, and she mostly cared about this because she liked Searchlight. Searchlight, of course, was completely oblivious to that. Sometimes it was kind of amusing, but it was also annoying and getting really old. We walked through the halls together. So, Breeze said. You think this will really work? Just going up to them with 50 mecha and telling them to stop. Well, Searchlight said. The teachers have proven they aren't going to do anything, and the bullies can't fight all of us. No. I stumbled a little as a wall of pure terror hit me. Let me out. Help. Wave. Searchlight looked at me. The bullies were at the edge of my range, amused. If they could feel the pure, desperate fear, I had never felt someone that panicked before. But I couldn't say anything with Breeze here. So I turned and walked the other way, hoping Searchlight would follow, because I needed backup. The others were confused, but Searchlight guessed that I'd be more willing to talk where Breeze couldn't hear. You two go on. I'll see what's up with him, Searchlight said and left Ratchet and Breeze standing alone. Wave, what is it? I motioned for him to follow, and he did so, then I doubled back as soon as possible, pushing my range out just a little as I went so I could see where the bullies were. So, Searchlight said. What's up? Verdict, I told him. Oh, what are they doing? I hesitated. It would not be good to just show up by ourselves. They did still outnumber us. I changed directions. Where are we going? Searchlight asked. Cabler each. His office was just in the next hallway over. I could still hear the intense panic of the mech the bullies were tormenting. I wasn't even sure who it was. From the bullies' point of view, they were just holding the door of a smallish closet closed, laughing as whoever was in there fought desperately to get out. Cabler Reach's office door opened for us and he looked up, suddenly alarmed. Everything all right? He asked. They erdict and the others have shut, so only on in a close it, I stuttered. What was that? Cabler Reach asked. The bullies, Searchlight said. They've shut someone in a closet or something. I think they're still there too. Where? Cabler Reach got up from his desk. They followed me out of the office and down the hallway. The bullies were still there when we came around the corner. They stopped and backed away from the closet door. What are you doing? Cabler Reach demanded. They ran? Searchlight wanted to go after them, but Cabler Reach was more worried about whoever was trapped. He opened the closet door and a mech shot out. He crashed into the wall across the hallway and sank to the ground, gasping and sobbing. The Seeker. Oh, Primus, Cabler Reach thought. Are you all right? Thundercracker quieted, and then got up slowly. Thundercracker. The dark blue Seeker glared at us and stormed off. Primus cursed place. I hate this school, I can't stand it any longer. They cannot do that. Cabler Reach thought. I'm going right to Grey Charter and he is going to call them to his office and we will make sure this doesn't happen again. You do not shove a Seeker in a closet, you do not. I hate that they get away with stuff like this, Searchlight said. Cabler Reach looked down. Not this time. I personally witnessed that. You two have a good rest of the Orn. Thank you for coming to me with this instead of trying to handle it yourself, Searchlight. Thundercracker, at the edge of my range, dragged open a window in the nearest classroom, then climbed out. He leapt and transformed before flying away. Apparently, Seekers got alt modes at a younger age than we did. We went to the Energon Hall where we found Breeze and Ratchet sitting at a table together, not talking to each other. Breeze noticed us when we came in, but Ratchet jumped when Searchlight sat down next to him. So what happened? Breeze asked. Verdict, Jazz and Motormaster were shoving that Seeker fledgling into a closet. Breeze gasped. No. Yeah. If I was even questioning whether or not we needed to do something about them, that's over. You can't just, is he okay? The Seeker. He stormed off. I don't know where he went. Someone should go make sure he's okay, Breeze said, standing up. He probably do S&T1 company, I said softly. Besides, he had left the building. We can ask him next door in geology, Searchlight said. Breeze sat down slowly again. Hang on, how did they know? How did you know they were doing that? She asked. That couldn't have been why Soundwave randomly turned and walked the other way, could it? Searchlight said. Well, we were on our way to the Energon Hall when we saw them. Oh, Breeze said. So why did Soundwave stop? I guess that's not really my business or anything. Nope. It wasn't. We did see Thundercracker the next Orn. He was sulking in his usual seat by the door. I tried to warn Searchlight not to go talk to him after class, but he didn't listen. Hey, Searchlight caught up to the Seeker. Thundercracker walked more quickly. I am not talking to you. Hey, Thundercracker. The rest of us hurried to catch up to them. Thundercracker led us to an empty hallway, then rounded on Searchlight. No, he said. I am not interested in anything you have to say. I will not be one of your merry band of misfits. I don't want your pity or your kindness or anything you think you have to offer me. Leave me alone, you low-born piece of scrap metal. He turned and walked away. Well, that was rude, Ratchet said. He just misses home, probably, Searchlight shrugged. No, I said. I don't think so. We all watched him go around the corner. Okay, Searchlight said. Let's get to that meeting. He led the way to the room we decided to use for the next meeting. It was one of the large classrooms on the third floor, and even if a fourth of the school showed up, it wouldn't be crowded. We had about 50 that time. Searchlight talked again about standing up to the bullies. His plan was really very simple. Verdict and his friends usually spent a jor or two out in the yard every Orn after school, and that would be the best time to approach them. We would get a big group together and go talk to them. Searchlight would warn them that we were done, letting them walk all over us, and that if they kept bothering the other students, they were going to meet some resistance. His hope was that would dissuade them, but if it didn't, he was already working on some ideas to help the other students stand up to them without getting hurt. He came up with a date and a time for our first move. I could feel a good deal of apprehension from the assembled students, but most of them seemed like they'd actually come. Ratchet still thought the whole thing was a bad idea, but even he was planning to join us. I tried to ignore the disturbing feeling that for whatever reason, this wasn't going to go well. I was almost even tempted to go to Cabler Reach about it, but that would be a betrayal of Searchlight's trust and I couldn't do that. I needed to think though, and be alone for a while, so I went to the library that off-cycle. There were usually mecha there, and sometimes they were pretty focused on what they were doing, which made them noisy, but it was almost never crowded. If I really wanted some quiet, I could go up to the roof, but that was technically not allowed, and I liked being around computers and datapads. I got on a computer console and pretended to be studying for the computers class I was taking from Cabler Reach. I wasn't paying that much attention to the other mecha around me, but I did notice when Jazz came in. I sighed and started saving my progress. If he saw me, I'd have trouble. I should leave before that happened. I would go up to the roof instead. I got off the console and made for the door, careful to stay mostly out of sight. Jazz saw me anyway. We stared at each other for a moment. I should probably try to threaten you or something, shouldn't I? I didn't move. Nah, it's not worth it. Thank Primus. I fled the library and headed up to the roof. By the time I was on the last flight of stairs up, I could tell there already was someone on the roof. Thundercracker was sitting on the railing, looking out over the city as the sun set, feeling sorry for himself. Well, that was annoying. I spent the next full hour walking around the 4th floor until I found somewhere that was out of range of everyone else. After a while, I went to my room and listened to Ravage complaining about how I hadn't taken him with me to Searchlight's room. I ignored him and pretended to do homework until lights out. Then I curled up on my berth and tried to recharge. I was overly worried about this, and I was annoyed with myself for it, but I couldn't shake the anxiety. There were too many things that could go wrong with Searchlight's plan, and I honestly didn't know how the bullies would react. It could push them to tell someone about me. It could get Searchlight in trouble, or even get all of us in trouble. It would be hard for anyone to prove that I could read minds, but if Verdict managed to convince his creators. I told Searchlight this was alright. I'd expected things to move more slowly, though. They were going to confront Verdict, Motormaster, and Jazz in just a few orns. Ravage noticed my worry and curled up against the back of my helm. At least I had one completely reliable friend. I fell eventually into a fitful recharge.